Good morning. My name is Tess Cherry. I am your RE coordinator here at U2C3, and I will be your worship associate this morning. Whether this is your first time joining us or you've been part of our community for years, both in person and online, we, the congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Corpus Christi, wholeheartedly and unconditionally welcome you as your true and authentic self, right here in this moment. We intentionally welcome everyone. We embrace every gender expression and sexual orientation. We embrace every race and ethnicity. There we go. We welcome you regardless of your political party or affiliation, your level of ability, socioeconomic status, or education. We especially welcome those who face the hatred, cruelty, and judgment of others simply for being who they are. May you find sanctuary here now. We meet here today on the ancestral lands and waters of peoples in the past. Our gathering together during this time has intention and purpose. This space at this time is holy and sacred. Though we may often fall far short of our ideals, we intend to grow as spiritual and moral beings. To that end, we recite a covenant each week, which is not a creed, but a promise we make to one another. We invite everyone to enter into this relationship from our beloved community together as we learn how to live into our principles. We do have a few announcements today. And I'm going to be self-centered, and I'm going to go first. We are looking for a few volunteers to help out with religious exploration. Whether you have a hobby that you would like to share with the kids and come back and teach us. For example, Michael Causey does leather work, and when I was a teen here, we did that back in the back with everyone. So, it's open. Just come and talk to me. I'll be happy to help. Our canvas is now up to $60,000. A little short of what we're hoping, so get those pledge cards in. The Trans Day of Remembrance is a vigil at Grace Presbyterian Wednesday, I believe, but see your e-news for more. We have a new focus on membership today meeting after service for 15 minutes. Please follow Django and figure out what you got to do. Now, a little bit more serious note here. Kirk's email has been hacked. Be wary. Thus endeth the announcements. It is our tradition in this church to offer visitors and newcomers an opportunity to introduce themselves if they wish to do so. If this is your first time here or you've been attending for a while and now feel comfortable saying hello, we invite you to stand if you are able or rise. Raise your hand and share your name and where you're from. We have Ren going around with the mic. Are there any visitors or newcomers here today who would like to introduce themselves? Okay. All right. Well, we welcome you and we're glad you're here. And we would like to invite you for after service for coffee and conversation. We would love to get to know you. Our service will now begin.
Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles and warm woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things. Cream-colored ponies and crisp apple strudels, doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel with noodles, wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings. These are a few of my favorite things. Girls in white dresses with blue satin sashes, snowflakes that stay on my nose and eyelashes, silver white winters that melt into springs. These are a few of my favorite things. When the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad.
Where hate rules, let us bring love. Where sorrow, joy. Let us strive more to comfort others than to be comforted, to understand others than to be understood, to love others more than to be loved. For it is in giving that we receive, and in pardoning that we are pardoned. Number 702, Saint Francis of Assisi. The theme of our service today is Grandma's Gospel of Gratitude. Please welcome our guest, Debby Sundermann, my mama. I would like to invite up Allison to light our chalice while I share these words. It is for the Transgender Day of Remembrance. We are whole and holy. We are loved beyond all measure. And in our refusal to accept anything less, may we know we are close-rooted in the infinite divinity. Okay, so maybe next time I do have to be down there with them. Please rise in body or spirit for the affirmation of our church covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all we hold sacred. You may now be seated.
Right through. A lot of battles left me battered and bruised, and I was shattered, had my heart ripped in two. I was broken, There were a lot of times I stumbled and crashed, when I was on the edge to do my last chance. So many times when I was so convinced that I was over, but I had to fall to rise above it all. For the storm, made me appreciate the sun. I'm grateful for the wrong ones, made me appreciate the right ones. I'm grateful for the pain, for everything that made me break. I'm thankful for all my scars, 'cause they only made my heart grateful. The weight of all the pain was weighing me down. Pulled it together and I pulled myself out. Learned a lesson, that there's a lot you gotta go through, hell yeah. But that's what got me strong, I got no regrets. And I've only got love, no bitterness. Count my blessings, I'm proud of every tear, 'cause they got me here. I'm grateful for the storm, made me appreciate the sun. I'm grateful for the wrong ones, made me appreciate the right ones. I'm grateful for the pain, for everything that made me break. I'm thankful for all my scars, 'cause they only made my heart grateful. I got lost, found myself, found my way. Grateful for the storm, made me appreciate the sun. I'm grateful for the wrong ones, made me appreciate the right ones. I'm grateful for the pain, for everything that made me break. I'm thankful for all my scars, 'cause they only made my heart grateful.
Hello again. Today's story for all ages is The Gratitude Jar by Katrina Lou and Bella and Sori. Aw, Emma got a pink bracelet, but I got a yucky green one. It isn't fair, complained Mina as she opened her party goodie bag. I'm sorry you're disappointed, but didn't you have fun at Sarah's party? Asked Mama. Yeah, but Sarah's house is so much bigger and nicer than ours. She even has her own room. I have to share mine with Leah. It isn't fair, continued Mina. At dinner, Mina groaned. Not leftovers again. Addison said her mom was ordering pizza for dinner. It isn't fair. The next day, Mina stomped home after school and let out a big sigh. Jackson showed us the coolest seashell from Hawaii during show and tell today. He got to go on an amazing summer trip while I had to stay home. It isn't fair, Mina grumbled. Mama carried a big glass jar into the room. Get out your most colorful paper, glitter, and glue. We're making a gratitude jar, she announced. What's a gratitude jar? Asked Mina. It's a special jar that reminds us of the good things in our lives. Every day, we'll write or draw one thing we're grateful for. Then we'll drop the paper in the jar. It could be the yummy pancakes we ate for breakfast, a warm bed to sleep in, or time with our friends. I'll start. I'm grateful for this sunny day, weather, so we can have our family picnic tomorrow, said Mama. Now, how about you give it a try? Mia thought for a minute. I can't think of anything. Here's a tip. Think about a person, place, or thing that you love or enjoy, encouraged Mama. I've got one. I'm grateful for Leah, even though sometimes she takes my toys, she said as she gave her baby sister a little squeeze. Excellent, said Mama. On Thanksgiving Day, we'll take them all out to read. Then we'll see just how blessed we are. I'm going to decorate it with lots of colors and the shiniest sparkles. This will be the most beautiful gratitude jar anyone has ever seen, said Mina. Mina thought about all the things she was grateful for. The lemon tree in the backyard that they used for fresh lemonade. Sounds refreshing. Their trips to the local library and her grandma's delicious homemade dumplings. She was especially thankful for her family, even though they didn't have as much money as some other families. They had more love than anyone she knew. The gratitude jar became a special part of their family's daily routine. Every evening at dinner, they each shared something they were grateful for that day. By Thanksgiving Day, the jar overflowed with pieces of colorful paper. They had to replace it with a bigger jar. Not only did Mina stop whining and complaining regularly, but soon enough, the entire family found themselves in a happier mood. I'm glad we did this project, said Mina. I can now see all the wonderful things we have. I'm grateful for the gratitude jar. Mama gave Mina a big hug. Me too, sweetie. And I'm so grateful for you. The end. I would like to invite the children and young at heart to join Miss Lauren in RE today. Now in peace.
May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Do you want to read this? After our meditation reading and time of silence, and when the music begins, all who would like to are invited to come up to the chalice table and light a candle representing a joy or sorrow you may be holding in your heart today. Please come up one at a time using the middle aisle. If you are with us online today, you are welcome to share your joys and sorrows in the chat feature.
But first, our meditation reading. And this comes from Ruth Pounds, my grandmother. It's a poem she wrote called My Ohio Home. Give me a spot in Ohio where the hills rise on every side. Give me a cottage humble where the spirit of home can reside. Give me a fireplace olden where the flames leap up to the sky. Give me people to love, and little more will I ask from God on high.
And now I invite you into a moment of silent reflection. would like to welcome our guest, Debby Sundermann, and the Grandma's Gospel of Gratitude. Deborah Sundermann is a lifelong Universalist, Unitarian Universalist, and a 28-year member of this congregation. She has been licensed to practice law for 39 years, much of which was as a board-certified specialist in civil appeals. She has represented a wide variety of clients in large and small law firms, as well as in 14 years of solo practice. She has long enjoyed a preeminent Martindale-Hubbell rating, the highest peer review rating offered. Now in her 14th year of working as an attorney for a federal trial judge, she is nearing the retirement she intended to glide into with her government job. While the cause of justice is her calling, she is here to speak about lessons learned while spending childhood summers on her grandmother's farm. Let's welcome Debby Sundermann.
Okay, today's message is about the legacy of Ruth Evangeline Parsons Pounds, who lived for 91 years, departing this life in 2001. This message about my grandmother comes in two parts. First, I want to give you a taste of my childhood impressions. Then I will give you my adult perspective. That perspective comes not only from the maturity inflicted by time, but includes information gained for the first time when my sister and I interviewed her in her late 80s, and wave upon wave of reflection 20 years after her death. Now, you know that grandmothers are warm, squishy women with lots of hugs, a memorable skill at making soft-boiled eggs with buttered toast, and the patience of Job in teaching crafts involving yarn. But Grandma Ruth was not that kind of grandma. If you follow me down memory lane, you will find yourself on a 6-hour journey through a long maze of freeways, a smattering of increasingly curvy highways, and twisted, bumpy gravel roads, raising a cloud of dust that leaves a gray blanket along the roadside of the rolling hills of southeastern Appalachian Ohio. The journey ends seemingly randomly at the driveway of a little white house with a little white picket fence. But Grandma Ruth didn't live in that relatively normal house. She lived in an austere cabin set back behind a big barn. She and Grandpa weren't farmers. She was a retired teacher, tall and straight with wild gray curls, and he was an archetypal absent-minded professor with a remarkable resemblance to Mr. Potato Head. But there they were on this farm, which was never particularly good for crops or cattle. It was good for poison ivy, snakes and bugs, bizarre flying squirrels, and bats that emerged from the barn promptly at 6 o'clock every night. Do we have the picture? And that is me. Having moved a stark granary from a nearby hill, Grandma Ruth slowly built onto it, a patchwork home that never saw the mark of an architect and was well known for the floors that were not level, walls that were not plumb, and corners that were not square. It had no extravagance, as she had no aspirations of luxury. Putting on airs was a mortal sin. I wouldn't say she was comfortable in her own skin, but she was resigned to it. Her washing machine was an old-timer with one of those roller attachments to squish out the water of the clothes. However, it was electric, and those rollers would eat your hand if you got distracted. One suffering of that will restore your focus forever. The dryer was a clothesline. For many years, there was no indoor bathroom. A garden hose served as a shower, and we had to use a scary, smelly outhouse, a two-seater, creepy in more ways than one. The furniture was mostly shaker-style antiques and rummage sale fare. Cushions, such as they were, had long lost their cush. The braided rugs were almost impossible to keep clean, and when you spend a full summer at the farm, cleaning is one of your responsibilities. That brings me to chores. I spent a lot of time on the farm, including some entire summers during my middle and high school years, but it was no vacation. The days were structured, and Grandma Ruth expected me to be useful. A carryover from Puritan days, I'm sure. Chores or errands were scheduled for every weekday morning. In the vegetable garden across the road, there were potatoes to dig, green beans to pick and snap, corn to husk. And sometimes she would lead us, each with our own pail, foraging around the property to pick blackberries for the cobbler that night. Do you know how thorny blackberry bushes are? And how small and far apart they grow? And how many berries it takes to make one cobbler? There was a huge lawn to mow, swings to hang, and a storage shed to clean out. One summer, my cousins and I even had to clean out the barn's cistern. I promise you, mucking out a cistern will give you a whole new idea about rainwater. Grandma Ruth was not interested in having things easy. One of the first things I learned about her was making do. The grocery store was far away. One morning, I was eating my cereal and noticed that the milk was just starting to turn. It wasn't bad, but it was certainly showing troubled tendencies. I started to alert my less discerning family members when I looked up and I saw her looking at me, and I knew that I was to be silent and we were going to make do. She was the queen of recipe substitutions. After visiting my parents in Texas, she decided she would serve us fajitas in Ohio, before Tex-Mex was a thing. She didn't have access to skirt steak and she didn't grill, so she pressure cooked a roast. The stores didn't sell tortillas, so she used potatoes. You get the idea. Perhaps it was entertaining to imagine the connections, but it wasn't fajitas. It was meat and potatoes, and it would make do. Afternoons were the fun part if you love a challenge. After lunch and a nap, and with our one-a-day ration of pop, soda to you guys, we would play bridge or Scrabble. Grandma Ruth was a ruthless competitor. She didn't taunt or gloat. She just seriously worked to take you down. There was no coddling or coaching, and the open dictionary policy was meant to broaden your education. You still had little hope of using it to your advantage. You had to figure out the strategies on your own. It took me years to win a game against her. I'm still playing Scrabble on my phone, and her strategies continue to reveal themselves long after her death. Sometimes for fun, she took us snooping in a nearby ghost town next to an ancient cemetery. We wandered through abandoned houses that were leaning into the gravitational pull and scavenged anything that caught our eye. After the church bell tower crushed to the ground, she repurposed the church pews to her own yard. Who does that? Speaking of church, on Sunday, we had to dress up in our go-to-meeting clothes and tromp over to the one-room Methodist church, where Grandma Ruth often taught lessons from the Bible to old and young. She would belt out the old pilgrim dirges in a strong voice that got deeper every year. And then there was the extended family. I'm reminded of the lyric in Robert Earl Keen's Merry Christmas from the Family, not the part about getting drunk in the beer runs, but that line, Fred and Rita drove from Harlingen. I can't remember how I'm kin to them. There were lots of people who were treated like family that didn't start out that way. One woman had a family with 6 boys who were great fun to hang out with on the farm, and Kay lived with them on the farm until they died. I didn't really know why. They were all great, don't get me wrong, but what was up with that? And last, I should mention that Grandma Ruth was something of a slumlord. She subscribed to House Beautiful, which I loved reading, but I wonder if she ever opened the pages. She directed her own home design interests toward buying old houses in town, sometimes dividing them into small apartments. They would have that Grandma Ruth patchwork quality, and her objective was to make them just livable enough to rent. So there's one version, my childhood perspective. She was a church lady and a landlady, a peculiar woman who was almost an ascetic. She lived beneath her means, unpretentious to a fault. She was tied to a lot of strange people, and her constant expectation was that we make ourselves useful. So now let's drill that down. About that land. Grandma Ruth grew up in poverty on that farm. She and her parents moved there when she was 6 years old to help out her own grandmother, Grandma Sally, after her grandfather died. The move came with a lot of hardships, including Aunt Lucy, who disapproved of young Ruth from the minute the child arrived to the day that old Lucy died, still scribbling on what was left of her faculties to repeatedly record her grudges against Ruth and the world. Ruth grew up with the scorn of those who branded her with the epithet of Hillikin, an Appalachian reference to poor country folk. Along those lines, I even learned that her own mother-in-law tried to prevent her marriage because she didn't think Ruth was good enough for her boy. Ruth bore the weight of all of those opinions. Great-Grandma Sally was Ruth's protector and greatest champion, encouraging her to thrive at being herself. The farm became a character of its own in Ruth's isolated world. It was her friend. Exploring it provided respite from the harsh world's constant disapproval, and it gave her a place of peace to read voraciously. There was nothing random about Grandma Ruth's return to this particular property. I have never known anyone who so loved a piece of ground. She had to buy it back from a stranger because mean old Aunt Lucy wouldn't sell it to her. And she built her retirement home there, not just to soothe her soul, but to provide a place of respite for the entire family, where you could seek shelter in a time of need and recover from the traumas that life throws at you. The objective was not to provide you with a resort destination, but to always have a place where you could pick yourself up and trudge on. Grandma Ruth felt gratitude for that land, a place of healing, which she expressed by sharing it with her family. The first addition to the granary before the living quarters were developed was a screened-in porch overlooking the woods as the trees descend to the creek bed behind the house. She spent hours on that porch and knew the bird calls. She watched the squirrels, woodpeckers, lightning bugs, and the teeming life in the trees. She even wrote children's stories about a family of flying squirrels. And don't forget that she remembered from childhood where all those blackberries were. She knew all the wildflowers and their seasons. She planted a vegetable garden that reliably filled her table. Grandma Ruth felt gratitude for the interconnected web of life, which she expressed by being an active witness to each day and sharing the earth's bounty. Grandma Ruth lived through the Great Depression, which forced everyone to make do. It is no wonder that her furnishings were old rescues, and no one could better identify a pie safe under multiple layers of paint, which could be refinished to be one of my favorite pieces of furniture ever. Those braided rugs had been made from her childhood clothes, garments she could still remember. Grandma Ruth felt gratitude for the things present in our world, especially those left to abandonment and to decay, and expressed that by reducing, repurposing, repairing, reusing, and recycling, long before that became an Earth Day climate crisis mantra. Chores were necessary to function in the relative isolation of the farm. Nothing came for free, and for good reason. Grandma Ruth had helped hobos not by giving them money, but allowing them to work for it, because she understood the satisfaction of a job well done and work as a matter of human dignity. She was a hand up, not a handout kind of person. She had gratitude for finding a useful place in the world and expressed that by putting us on her team. Calvin was one of her team captains. He had been the janitor of the nearby schoolhouse and was one of her adoptions. He acted as caretaker of the farm, living rent-free in the little white house across the road. Not only did she give him that home for life, he outlived her by about 10 years, but she provided him with the means to make a living, letting him run cattle on the property and employing him to build all her construction projects. As I mentioned, the construction left much to be desired, but it would do. He was more important than square corners. Grandma Ruth's competitive streak was a survival skill that served her well. It wasn't just about fun and games. She grew up without privilege and had to earn her way through an education, career, and marriage. When she felt her husband's affections were being diverted by an ambitious co-ed, she didn't dwell in self-pity or wield shame or guilt. She enrolled in his class and outperformed the woman. She knew that intelligence was what spoke to her husband, and she used it strategically to restore his focus and remind him that he was already married to the more impressive scholar. Grandma Ruth had gratitude for her natural abilities and expressed that by defending what was precious to her and challenging all of us to develop and use our own power. Grandma Ruth was the daughter of a Methodist minister and a church organist, so it is no wonder that Christianity was a large part of her world. Fun fact, late in his life, her father, the minister, moved to California and started attending a UU church. When I was a teen, Grandma Ruth and I discussed religion, my skepticism, and her close work with the Bible. She reconciled our differences by explaining that she believed that God was in each of us and that the Bible stories were rife with lessons to learn, not to be taken literally. She might not agree with me, but I've concluded that she was a Methodist in name only. She never tried to preach anything to us, but to reflect and do what we already knew was right. She expected us to keep our promises and to live by the golden rule. She appreciated the benefit of community and the spirituality of supporting each other. Grandma Ruth expressed that by serving her church. So now let's talk about family. Grandma Ruth was keenly aware that we need each other. This came not only from growing up poor, but from her own vulnerability and Me Too experience, something she never spoke about until my sister and I interviewed her in her late 80s. She was working her way through school as a nanny, and in her words, quickly learned that she should make sure that she never found herself alone in a room with the Father. It should come as no surprise that she offered a safe haven to others in response to her own feeling of vulnerability. I now know a little about some of the extra people she took in. For instance, one was a talented gay artist who later moved to California. I didn't get to meet him, but I loved the painting of the Cincinnati skyline that he left behind. One was a physically and emotionally abused 14-year-old runaway who had the fortitude to find work as a candy striper in the hospital and also to enroll in high school, where Ruth worked as a teacher and counselor. Grandma Ruth figured out that the girl was homeless and gave her an ultimatum. Either I turn you into the authorities, or you come and live with me. She got educated, married a wonderful man, and gave birth to the 6 boys that were so much fun on the farm. One was a woman working as a salesperson at the department store, whose husband had abandoned her with 2 young children. Grandma Ruth made her basement into an apartment and invited them, mother, children, and grandmother, to join her family. That salesperson was Kay, who lived with Grandma until she died. And there were many others. Grandma Ruth had means, modest as they may have been, to help others who just needed a hand up. Grandma Ruth had food, clothing, and shelter, and she expressed her gratitude by sharing it with others who did not. And let's be clear, Grandma Ruth was not a slumlord. The houses and apartments she rented out may not have been the most beautiful, and Lord knows the tenants were not the most reliable. But the rent was low enough that they could afford to put a roof over their heads, and the entire venture was financially a net loss to her. But she was a pioneer in affordable housing. Her rental enterprise was a gift to the working poor, which came with dignity. And even now, it is occurring to me that she probably spent as little as possible on her own home in order to have the funds to buy properties to rent to others. Grandma Ruth quietly inspired us to follow her path. When she loaned us some money to fix up our house when Scott and I got married, she would not let us pay her back. Her response was to pay it forward. She was a woman who was ahead of that movement, and we were charged with finding someone else in need and taking care of them. In our interview, we asked Grandma Ruth if, looking back, she was satisfied with her life. When she said that her life had been good, we asked why she assessed it that way. Her response was, "I never had to experience the sorrow of losing a child." She had an assessment of life that was as profound as it was simple. You have now heard how my first impressions were stunningly naive. Grandma Ruth's life was a model of thanksgiving. The farm was her sanctuary, and from that retreat, she had the means and opportunity to improve the lives of others. I now see how she overcame poverty, hate, trauma, and vulnerability with gratitude. And that gratitude transforms frugality into generosity, fallowness into purpose, and idleness into service, all expressions of love. According to Cicero, gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others. And I'd like to believe that generosity is contagious. It causes you to breathe deeply, tread lightly, hug tightly, act justly, and take joy in making do. St. Francis of Assisi must have seen Grandma Ruth coming when he admonished us to preach the gospel at all times and, if necessary, use words. Grandma Ruth's life was a wordless prayer. Its memory is a gospel of gratitude I now carry with me. While my works pale in comparison to hers, I'd like to think that I'm just getting started. And it makes sense that when I got my family's consent to do away with it and focus on Thanksgiving instead, I began to feel Grandma Ruth's influence more clearly than ever before. May we all embrace that which life throws at us with gratitude for what matters and the fortitude to make the world better. May we find exceptional joy in our favorite things and reach out to help others find theirs. May Grandma Ruth's legacy live on.
We extinguish our chalice with these words. What?
Offering
Oh, the offering. Good Lord. Okay, sorry. Apparently this script is incomplete. Huh? Now is the time for offering. What is given in love is received with gratitude. Take it. May this church be worthy of all your gifts. Take it away, band.
To thank you for it. La 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 la. 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 Hey hey hey. You've been so kind and generous. You keep on giving. For your kindness I'm in debt to you, and I never could have come this far without you. For everything you've done, you know I'm bound to thank you for it. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Our closing words are from Lao Tzu. He who knows that enough is enough will always have enough. And as we extinguish the chalice, we should certainly count our blessings, but we should also make our blessings count. Go forward and experience our season of Thanksgiving with a grateful heart and a generous soul.
Oh, I want to thank you for so many gifts you gave me with love and tenderness. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your generosity, the love and the honesty that you gave me.
post the selections for next week.